And do you remember years ago people shoveling in the grave at the graveside? Do you ever see
I
it?
do, yeah. I remember that they used to do that like one time, and fellas would be there at the grave and fellas would be shoveling and he'd be shoveling, he'd murder himself just because everyone was looking, like, you know. I was at a funeral one time out in a graveyard out there in Newcastle, and it was a Church of Ireland funeral. And the minister said, when I nod my head, he says, you have to stop putting the clay into the grave. And he nodded his head, and the steps of the grave. And the one man digging the grave was nearly 70. I thought he'd kill it. He kept praying until they put every shovel of clay into that grave. I thought the man had died, like, you know. It was an awful thing to do. And I was coming out anyway, I met this man, a lovely man, a Church of Ireland man. He said, if I had my way, he said, you wouldn't have that service here today, he said. He didn't agree with it at all, you know. But the minister was the minister, and they just leave him down now, and they say the prayers, and sometimes you'll have a fella sing a song at the graveside and things like that, and eventually they all go away, and when they go away, then they cover in the grave. That's the way they do it now. There's no such thing as shoveling and often you would see an odd person, like when the coffin goes out, they go and they get a fist of clay and pour it into the grave.
Do you ever see much of a tradition of, say, in the country areas still, of the families digging the graves, or the neighbours?
Oh, they do in certain places, they would, yeah. And I was at a funeral one day in Grangemockler, and the neighbours and everyone covered in the grave. When the priest stopped praying, they covered in the grave, the whole lot. I had a funeral in Grangemockler one day, and there was a fella there, and he was gone a little bit in the head, and I was watching him anyway, and the next thing, the green matin, he put his foot on it like that, and he started just as if to walk over. I came from behind, caught him with the back of the neck, and I had him on the other side before he knew what hit him. And he never even looked back to see who did it to him. He knew he was wrong, you see. Should the minute that there's only a 2B1 lasset is holding up the green mat, and his way top of that, sure, he'd go straight down into it.
Did you ever see them with the shovels, making a sign of the cross with the shovels when they were finished?
Well, I've seen that in places where they do it, they put in half the clay and they put it out over the shovel and say a prayer, and everyone will go away then. But they all have the different little traditions, like, and that's the way it is.